Hi guys, I'm Jay Picasso. Welcome back to Tech Corner. Today, as you can see, I'm back in Studio E at Metropolis Studios. Today, I'm going to be discussing 5 tips to working in any studio. Now, although I am sat in Europe's largest independent recording facility right now, the tips I'm going to be sharing with you are going to work across the board, no matter whether you're recording in a bedroom or Metropolis. There are a few crucial things that are going to enable you to visit any studio and make sure that your time there is as productive as it can possibly be. Whether you're one of our students here at ACM with access to a variety of studios on campus, or you're an up-and-coming musician wondering where to book and how to book a studio space, everything I'm going to share today is for you. So whether you find yourself recording in a bedroom or at Metropolis, all of this information is going to apply. So let's get into it. Number 1, arrive early. It's probably the most obvious thing I could say, but making sure that you arrive early at the studio is probably the number 1 way to make sure that your time there is going to be productive. I work in a lot of studios, and something I don't particularly like is when people arrive too early. It's like hosting a party and someone arrives half an hour before the party starts. Things aren't necessarily ready for you to walk in yet. If you want to walk in and sense the magic and just know that everything is ready to roll, then I need you to arrive on time. Having said that, from the position of someone arriving at a studio ready to use that studio and potentially work with an engineer, you want to make sure that you're on time, at least. If not, arriving early is fundamental. This is because it gives you time to breathe, it gives you time to assess your environment, it gives you time to potentially talk to your engineer before the session. Now, like I said, not everyone's going to allow you to walk in half an hour early before a session. However, the fact that you are there at least gives you the opportunity to do so. One thing I would recommend is making sure that you get familiar with the environment and make sure that you get familiar with the person operating the studio. Now, that could be an engineer, it could also be a technician. Either way, you want to make sure that this person is on your side. And one of the best ways to do that is to make sure that you are on time. It's also a respect thing. Show respect for your studio time, show respect for your studio staff, and likewise, they will return that respect to you. So let's be very clear, arriving early is going to be one of the best things you can do to prepare for your studio time. Even if you need to sit outside with a sandwich, it just means that you are prepared. From the time you start, you are ready to go. Oftentimes, studio time equals money. And if you want to make the most of your money and make sure that you're maximizing every penny, it means that you want to make sure that you have arrived and are ready to go prior to the session. Which leads me on to my second point. Number 2, come prepared. The amount of times I experience artists come to the studio having done no real preparation prior is incredible. It happens all the time, you'd be surprised. Now, although this can happen, and if you are someone visiting studios really often, it's a byproduct of doing so, what I would advise is make sure that you go to every studio session as prepared as you can be. Now, what do I mean by that? There are a few different things that can mean, and only some may apply to you. So for example, it can often actually mean over-preparing, coming with more material than you may have time to record, coming with more ideas than you may have time to put down, but being prepared to work within the time restraints that the studio has offered you. Preparation can also mean making sure that your voice is warmed up. If you're a vocalist or if you're a musician, it can be important to have spent some time prior to the session making sure that your voice or your instrument is ready to go. In the case of an instrument, just make sure it's tuned. In the case of your voice, make sure that you've had some lemon and honey and make sure that your voice is at least warmed up so you don't have to spend the first 10 minutes and sometimes the first 10 takes getting your voice to a place where you're satisfied. So this is really, really important. Also, from a producer's point of view, make sure that you are over-prepared. There's been several sessions where I've shown up not necessarily knowing exactly what I have to do, so in order to combat that, I've been over-prepared. This can mean coming with my song in various states, so it could mean having a WAV or an MP3, it could mean bringing along the stems just in case. It could also mean bringing some of the samples that originally created the song, just in case I have to lay anything down on the fly. This obviously is going to be backed up on my hard drive, so having access to a hard drive is going to be fundamental. It might involve coming with chord sheets or having music written out. It might also involve having your lyrics written out in a way that you can see them and not necessarily from your phone. That's not to say the phone doesn't work, of course it does, but there are many instances where I've heard vocalists not quite get out the delivery because they're struggling to read what they've written on a small handset screen. So preparation is key. whenever you arrive at a studio, make sure you come prepared. As someone who works in a lot of studios, I am always prepared for your arrival. And something that I've always enjoyed working with is artists who come just as prepared as me. We often have a good conversation, we often greet each other well, and are already working as soon as the time starts. So, number 3, talk to your engineer or technician. Like I said to start with, you need these people on board with you. Now, you may not know this person, or you might have built a long-term relationship with this person. Who knows? The point is that if you're about to share your art, if you're about to record something that's personal and potentially intimate to you, then you're about to do it with this person in the room, if not assisting you to do so. So it's only logical, therefore, to have a conversation with this person, enabling them to understand where you're coming from, enabling them to potentially understand what you consider your stronger stuff versus your weaker stuff. I can't tell you, there's countless times as an engineer where I've been on the other side of the glass and the artist is asking me, how was that? That's really hard for me to tell if I don't know what your 10 is versus what your 1 is. If I know that 10 is you pushing it up there and that's coming to me at an 8, then I can give you a fair assessment. However, if you're very new to the craft and actually it turns out that that's your best, then I also have to be supportive of that and adaptive enough to help you progress to become a better artist. The point that I'm making is having conversation helps. Conversation creates relationship. You need to have a relationship with this person. I like to see the engineer or the technician or the staff member of this studio, anyone involved in the recording process, anyone involved in helping that recording process, I like to see them as someone I have a relationship with. To be honest, I consider them a little bit like my barber. If I don't at least converse with my barber, give him a little bit of back and forth, find out about his day, tell him at least how I want my hair to look this afternoon, then I can't expect him to do the best job for me. Essentially, for the time that I'm here, I want to befriend this person and I want them to be on board with my project. I want them to help me. And in order to help me, it means I have to get the best out of them as well. There's nothing worse than a great engineer who doesn't care about your song. There's nothing worse than a great technician who doesn't care to help you on how to use the desk. So make sure that you are conversing and that you are a person who is easy to work with in this capacity. Here's the other thing you need to know. Studio staff are in sessions all day, every day. It's a day job to them. And so when your session comes in, yes, they have to make it special. Just like my barber has to make my shape up special. However, they are also doing a job. So at the point of you not being someone that they can get on with, they will get on with their job because they are being paid to do so, but they will not give you the customer experience that you could potentially have had you just taken the time to be someone who was warm, receptive, and able to communicate how they feel and what they want from their song. One of the best working methods I get from artists is when they converse with me about the emotions and the feelings behind their song. Sometimes not even the song, sometimes just their day. For me to have a sense of their day gives me a sense of their energy, gives me a sense of their performance level, gives me a sense of how to direct them. Do they need tough love or do they need a soft nudge? All of these things come down to that communication between the artist or the person accessing the studio and the studio staff. So do take it seriously. And also, if I know anything about studios, oftentimes people return for the people that they experience there, not necessarily because of the studio itself. Number 4. Now, I really shouldn't have to say this one, but I'm gonna have to spell it out. Silence your phone, okay? Your phone can be one of the most distracting things to you in this studio environment. Your phone can be one of the things that costs you the most time, the most money in any given studio environment. Fortunately, I managed to work in a lot of studios with a lot of artists across the board. And the number 1 time wasting factor in studios in the modern world is the mobile phone. Yes, it's great for taking the odd selfie, and yes, of course, it's great for capturing your studio time. But the problem with the phone, as we know, is that it has more than one application on it. And by the time you have gone from filming your studio moment, you've probably dropped onto Instagram or you've probably dropped onto Facebook and spent some time there that you really didn't need to, where you could have been focused. Now, that's not to say there aren't moments where an artist can step out of the room, leave me in charge of what I'm doing. Perhaps I'm mixing something or using Melodyne to get some vocals sounding clean. Whatever it is, there are moments when you can take out your phone, but I would argue that it does take quite a long time to reset your concentration when it comes to taking out your phone. This is generally why we try to apply the same kind of theory within the classroom, because although taking out your phone can just be a second of distraction, it can take up to about 6 or 7 minutes for you to actually be back to where you were in terms of your level of concentration on the task ahead of you. I must also say that I have seen the phone take away some careers, in that some of the artists I've witnessed in the studio have been more into their phone than they have their own song. They've been more into that tweet that they just had to send, or that notification of those likes on a certain social media platform, than they are about how that verse sounds. At that point in time, you're missing stuff. Oftentimes those people have to come back as well because stuff didn't sound right. Why didn't it sound right? Because you weren't paying attention. Now, I'm saying all of that, and the likelihood is you're watching this on your phone right now. So it's got its purposes, as we all know. However, when it comes to maximizing your studio time, be prepared to operate without your phone. If you need it for lyrics, or you need it to find or source anything from a song, again, it's now being used as a productive tool. But just be cautious, just be wary of what that phone can do to a session in terms of disruption. So I've said it, I'm not gonna say it again, switch off your phone. Hello? Yes. No, I'm filming something. It's kind of bad timing for me. Yeah. And number 5, the finale. Prepare to be flexible. Flexibility within studio sessions could possibly be one of the most beneficial things to take away from this if you take nothing else at all. Which of course you should, because this has been great. But still, flexibility, honestly, seriously, it's everything. Don't get me wrong, as we've discussed, you still want to be prepared. However, flexibility means that when something comes up that was unexpected, you are prepared to roll with it in order to get a better result. And the reason why I say a better result is oftentimes with studio sessions, there needs to be a certain fluidity in order to get the most productivity out of it. Which means that suggestions, ideas, and things that are unexpected sometimes work within that session and the song to help create a better product. There are countless times where I've been in studio sessions and the artist is well prepared, so they know exactly what they want to do, but their ability to be flexible has enabled the session to unfold in a way that is unpredictable but has generated a better result for it. Now also, I must say, to be flexible does not mean to wash over on every decision, and does not necessarily mean to enable things to come in which were not part of the original plan in order to upset you or your vision for your song or your music. The idea here with flexibility is when things do come up which are unexpected, you have a method to adapting to it which sees a better result because of your methods of adapting. So as an example, let's say we're in the last stages of a record and we're now arranging the song around the vocals. A decision is made somewhere along the line to take out some of the bass line and the drums from the last 4 bars of a 16-bar verse. This is in order to create some dynamic feel. This was not the original intention, and in fact, the only reason why this decision was made was because accidentally the song was played back with those 2 parts missing. Upon hearing this, the artist decides that that's actually quite a nice dynamic shift, something they could never have predicted, something they could never have asked for, but they've just heard it accidentally. Now we decide it's a good time to start looking through the rest of the song to see what dynamic shifts we can make in order to improve the record. So we've taken an accident and we've turned it into an improvement. Now what this requires is a flexible mind and a flexible attitude. So like I've said, flexibility will only work on the basis you are still well prepared. However, at the point of it just being life and things happen, flexibility will enable you to capitalize on some of the things that come up during your studio sessions. This is also something that you need just for working with people in general. You may know the person you're going to be working with that day, you may not know the person you're going to be working with that day. The person you knew to be working with that day may have had something happen the previous night which has changed their mood for any given reason. Again, flexibility is required in order to understand that individual and understand how we can get the best out of them that day as well. So I believe that flexibility really is key to a good session. And as you should know, as a musician, it makes for some really creative outcomes. So the next time you arrive early at your studio session, well prepared, with your phone off, make sure that you're also prepared to be flexible with the environment and with the individuals that work there. The last thing I'd say is not part of the 5, but it's important, which is just to show respect. Wherever you go, your reputation goes with you. And first impressions mean quite a lot, believe it or not. So going to a studio, arriving at a studio, just respect the space. If you want to return, the owners or the people that work at that studio want to know that you're someone that respects the space, respects them, and respects the craft. So making sure that you present your best self when it comes to operating with individuals in the industry is fundamental to your success as well. I can tell you, like anyone else, that having loads of streams makes you really cool, but I can also tell you that being a nice person goes a lot further. So consider that next time you're in a studio. So that's it. That concludes today's episode. So thanks for joining me today, guys. Hopefully that's been of some help to you. I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys next week for another episode of Tech Corner. I'm Jay Picasso. Until then, peace.